Mexico City is in shock from a second major earthquake.
NBC Nightly News, reported by Connie Chung.
Good evening. Mexico City had no chance to recover from the first devastating earthquake when a second major quake hit last night, 36 hours later. The official death toll is 2,000, but the U.S. ambassador says as many as 10,000 people may have been killed. We have two reports. First, Robin Lloyd.
Once again, the streets were filled with confusion and chaos. People stunned and shocked. How could it happen again? Fear set in quickly as people realized what was happening. Shopkeepers closed up as quickly as they could. This time, it lasted only 30 to 60 seconds. A woman collapsed and had to be carried away in a stretcher. Panic-stricken people were everywhere, and as the night went on, the panic only got worse.
Oh, it's terrible. The earth is moving now. It's terrible.
Volunteers, fearful of fires, shouted to people inside the buildings to turn out their lights. Suddenly, hundreds of thousands of people were fleeing the center of the city, the same area where the first earthquake did the worst damage. People streamed out of subways and onto buses. Chaos had set in. For hours after the earthquake struck, the streets were snarled with traffic as people tried to leave the city, hoping to spend the night with relatives or friends. Others stayed behind, setting up makeshift camps near their homes in parks or street corners, huddling together with blankets to fight off the cold. One man said, "At least we have a little more security here." Throughout the night, rescue workers continued to sift through the rubble, looking for survivors. This shock made the search even more difficult as more and more debris and rubble fell onto the streets. At daybreak, smoke was rising from the ruins of one building, evidence that there had been more wreckage and destruction. The panic that swept the city last night is over, at least for now. But the people here are living in a state of fear and confusion, uncertain where to go for safety and whether or not they should leave their homes. Robin Lloyd, NBC News, Mexico City.
By mid-morning, the tremors were over, but the fear was building. People cleared out of shattered apartments. They herded to the medians of broad boulevards still decorated from last week's Independence Day festival. The tent cities that sprang up last night are growing. People want to be anywhere clear of the broken buildings. After last night's earthquake, there are thousands of people living in the streets, people walking aimlessly with bags and blankets in arms, afraid to go home. The refugees pass downtown streets that look as though they had been bombed. Rescue teams still look for survivors, but it appears more and more like a hopeless task. Still, some people are being pulled from the rubble alive. Jacobo Escobedo was pinned for 48 hours. Today, doctors amputated his leg and freed him. The injured need medicine that is in short supply and hard to find.
We know that here they have a lot of medicines, so we are looking for them.
Bottles of purified water are being distributed. Yesterday, the government gave away 50,000 containers. Only a 3-day supply remains. At the Juarez Hospital, volunteers passed debris hand to hand. 1,000 people may have been in this hospital Thursday morning. The stench of death in the air is strong. Across the city, the burying of the dead has begun. More than 100 bodies have been brought to this gymnasium. The corpses are being iced down, but the decomposing bodies are a health problem. Families making identification at the temporary morgue wear masks doused in alcohol. Here and in the other damaged zones, people gather in small groups, dazed, waiting. On a nearby wall, the names of the dead are posted. The unidentified victims will be buried in a mass grave. Dennis Murphy, NBC News, Mexico City.
Coming up, rescue efforts, what the U.S. and other countries are doing to help Mexico. A report on how many millions of people would die in a nuclear attack. And we'll meet one farm family heading for the big Farm Aid concert.
These old-fashioned shingles have worn out before their time. The culprit, insides of mere paper. Ugh.
Now these are long-lasting Owens Corning shingles. They have a heart of pink fiberglass, so they shrug off moisture, keep their cool and baking sun, and glide through winter after winter.
And that is no snow job.
Owens Corning, our building products put your house in the pink.
Ooh, fry it up, dress it up, pop, pop, pop it up. You love it all, the solar's got no cholesterol. Bake it up, pop it up, walk it up. You love it all, the solar's got no cholesterol. So crisp it, toss it, pop, pop it, walk it, bake it, kebab it up. You love it all, the solar's got no cholesterol at all. Now you've got style, fun,
light and elegant entrees like shrimp creole, beef burgundy, lasagna Florentine, all less than 300 calories.
chic, taste, grace, nice.
It's great for your image. 50,000 rescue workers in Mexico City this evening continued going through the remains of collapsed buildings. Help is arriving from all over the world, including workers from Nashville, Tennessee, and tents and blankets from the Soviet Union. Don Oliver has more on the rescue effort.
Even though the president of Mexico had said his country could solve its own problems, aid from foreign countries began to arrive. This plane from Detroit, sent by the Ford Motor Company.
It's medical supplies and syringes and needles and bandages and things that we heard that they needed on the television.
En el país como en el extranjero.
Then Mexican President de la Madrid went on television to admit he'd been wrong, that Mexico did need outside help. Mexico's Latin American neighbors were among the first to respond. Planes from Guatemala, Colombia, Argentina, the Dominican Republic. Powdered milk, shoes, clothing, more food, tents, electric generators. Mexicans had tried to meet their own needs through their own contributions, but the enormity of the disaster made it impossible. Too many need help. Marta Gonzalez and her 3 children fled their house during the second big quake last night. They had only the clothing on their backs. There is said to be a continuing need for food and blankets, but right now a good supply of medicine.
What is needed and needed quickly is sophisticated heavy equipment to move rubble faster, to get at those trapped alive before they die.
It is believed hundreds may have survived under the twisted steel and concrete of fallen buildings. The Swiss Red Cross has arrived from Geneva with a team of sniffer dogs to try to locate survivors. And Ambassador John Gavin says the U.S. has been asked to bring in heavy mining equipment for rescue.
We have 3 experts on disasters who are also coming in today. The equipment and the materials are standing by in the United States, ready to be flown in.
Many downtown buildings in Mexico City are dangerously near collapse. The first plane sent by the U.S. government contains firefighting helicopters and a demolition unit with enough equipment to destroy 30 buildings in 2 days. Don Oliver, NBC News, Mexico City.
Nancy Reagan will go to Mexico Monday to lend support for the victims of the earthquakes there. President Reagan announced the trip today. Mrs. Reagan was quoted as saying, "We are neighbors. I want to extend a loving hand." United States officials said today that requests for help from the Mexican government reflect the seriousness of the situation there. In the past, Mexico has been suspicious of the United States, but now Mexico is desperate. Lee McCarthy reports from Washington on U.S. efforts to help.
The Mexican government waited until last night to ask for American disaster aid. This morning, help was on the way, and State Department officials said it is designed to save people trapped alive.
We're providing the following at the request of the government. A 5-member team of search and rescue experts and demolition experts are on the way. The team is carrying very sophisticated electronic audio and video equipment which you can hear and get back in to actually find people.
The team left Pittsburgh this morning and stopped in Nashville, where more personnel were added, along with dogs that will be used to search the rubble. No major fires are burning in Mexico City, but there are many gas leaks and small fires. 3 Forest Service firefighting helicopters have been sent from Southern California to help put them out. The emphasis of the aid effort is on saving people still trapped. Late this afternoon, the Mexican government requested that specific items be sent: a field hospital, 2 field kitchens, power winches, portable generators, tool kits, cable cutters, power saws. The State Department hopes to act on that request within 24 hours. 60 State Department operators have been taking 20,000 calls a day from people using a special number to inquire about loved ones in Mexico. 3 deaths have been confirmed among the 300 to 400,000 Americans currently in the country. The State Department said Americans wanting to help in the relief effort should not send goods, but should contribute money to charitable relief organizations. Lee McCarthy, NBC News, Washington.
Kellogg's Special K Breakfast. Low fat, less than 220 calories. Try it on. You'll like what you see.
To photograph the Earth's resources from the air, they say you need a camera that can see through clouds.
Bad chance. Can't be done.
But Goodyear said,
let's try a new way.
And developed a special kind of radar.
Goodyear? Yeah, the Aerospace Group.
Radar that not only sees through clouds, but gives you pictures as sharp as some cameras. Good thing we didn't listen to what they say. Goodyear.
Here's the sound of a cold or allergy. Now listen to the new sound of relief. Dimetap was the #1 cold and allergy brand prescribed by doctors for over 20 years. Now Dimetap is available in new non-prescription formulas. 12-hour Dimetap Extend tabs relieve sneezing, stuffy runny nose, itchy eyes. 4-hour Dimetap Elixir does the same for children. Dimetap brings effective relief to you.
Security was especially tight as residents of black townships across South Africa buried more victims of the continuing racial violence today. Police sealed off several areas as huge crowds turned out for the funerals. More than 700 people have died in riots in South Africa over the past 20 months. Most of those who were buried today had been killed by police during recent disturbances. In Manila, Philippine riot police arrested nearly 100 people today as protesters capped 3 days of nationwide demonstrations. The protests marked the 13th anniversary of President Ferdinand Marcos' imposition of martial law. Marcos canceled a scheduled public appearance and was neither seen nor heard from today. There were emotional reunions in Korea today as 25 families were reunited for the first time in more than 30 years. 15 North Korean families were allowed into South Korea, while 10 families from the South were permitted to meet their relatives in the North. They are some of the estimated 10 million Koreans whose families were divided along with their country at the end of the Korean War. In Tokyo today, a Japan airline official who had been negotiating with relatives of the 520 people killed in last month's crash of a JAL jet took his own life. Police say he left a note saying that his suicide was intended as an apology for the disaster. Scientists attending a symposium in Washington were told today that the initial effects and after effects of a nuclear attack would be far greater than feared. Researchers reported that many survivors of a nuclear war would suffer AIDS-like abnormalities in their immune systems. They said many survivors would be virtually defenseless against disease. A different team of researchers reported that the death toll in a nuclear attack would be even greater than ever imagined. Robert Hager has more.
A full-scale nuclear first strike against the United States could result in from 36 million to 56 million deaths almost immediately, according to the latest studies, an estimate considerably higher than most previous estimates. It comes from some of the nation's leading scientists, called to a weekend symposium by the prestigious National Academy of Sciences and its Institute of Medicine. Whereas most attention recently has been focused on the so-called nuclear winter theory, a prediction of climate changes after an attack, this symposium is to consider the more immediate effects. In particular, scientists today predicted that super fires after a blast could kill far more than previously forecast. Stanford University's Theodore Postel said the heat at the center of a single blast could be 4 times the heat at the center of the sun, setting huge fires, and that as the fireball rose, it would suck in air from miles away at velocities that could reach hurricane force.
This ferocious hurricane of fire would be accompanied by the release of large amounts of potentially lethal toxic smoke and combustion gases, creating an environment of extreme heat, high winds, and toxic agents in target areas.
As for survivors, Dr. Herbert Abrams predicted that if there were an expected 32 million injured, that would require 70 times more hospital beds than would be available throughout the nation, 12 times more doctors, and 48 times more nurses than would be available.
The symposium winds up tomorrow when it'll turn to the question of whether there are enough safeguards to make sure potentially unstable people in the military or elsewhere are kept away from nuclear triggers. Robert Hager, NBC News, Washington.
Police in Darwin, Australia today arrested 2 members of the environmental group Greenpeace. They were accused of being part of a group that used 6 small boats to delay the docking of a British ship that was to pick up a load of radioactive uranium ore. In southern Lebanon, Shiite militiamen claim they have downed an Israeli helicopter carrying 30 passengers. Israeli military officials will confirm only that their troops were operating in the area today, but members of the UN peacekeeping force say an Israeli copter has been spotted in flames on the ground.
Corned beef with mustard. And cheese. Don't forget the pickles.
You know, most any food or drink can cause bad breath. That's why I carry Clorettes, the breath deodorant. Only Clorettes has Actisol with chlorophyll, which helps your mouth's freshening power clean up bad breath fast. It's breath protection that tastes great. Of course, Clorettes cost more, but it's worth it. Clorettes, the breath deodorant, because you have bad breath more often than you think.
Your days go by fast, your work never seems to end.
That's why Whirlpool washers and dryers are designed to make your world a little easier. They have a super wash cycle for the dirtiest dirt and a gentle cycle for your delicate knits. Whirlpool, quality appliances.
Maureen Stapleton for Fiber One cereal.
Hello. I'd like to talk to you about your breakfast and your health and new Fiber One. By now you've heard how important fiber is in your diet. That's where Fiber One comes in. Because no brand cereal has more fiber than Fiber One, or less sugar. And a high-fiber, low-fat diet may reduce the risk of some kinds of cancer. Fiber One. You can't beat it for fiber. It's healthy, it's smart, it's the one for me.
Finance ministers and central bankers from the world's leading industrial nations have been summoned to a meeting in New York tomorrow. The extraordinary closed-door session called by the United States will be devoted to discussions of international economic problems. The meeting comes one day before President Reagan is to announce steps to head off what he has called a mindless stampede toward protectionism. The president is expected to propose a $300 million fund to help U.S. firms sell products overseas. 2 of the nation's largest defense contractors, General Dynamics and Westinghouse Electric, were accused today of plotting to overcharge the Air Force for tools to repair a jet radar system. Congressman John Dingell charges that the 2 firms conspired to develop and sell new tools similar to the ones the Air Force has already paid for. Tomorrow's Farm Aid concert isn't expected to make a dent in the debt of American farmers, which is now about $212 billion. But the main organizer, singer Willie Nelson, plans to use donations from the concert to help some individual farmers in need. As finishing touches were put on the concert site in Champaign, Illinois, NBC News correspondent Mary Nissenson was traveling with some of the victims of the farm crisis.
It's a journey of hope for people who've almost given up hoping. The Northwestern Railroad donated the train so that 500 Iowa farmers could make their way to the Farm Aid concert.
Have your attention, please. Boone, Iowa is your next station stop.
But it'll take more than a whistle-stop trip to boost Bob and Teresa Sullivan's spirits.
As we ride along and I look at the cornfields, sometimes I have to fight back a tear, too. I hope these farmers aren't losing their farms.
The Sullivans know what losing a farm feels like. They're third-generation farmers on 900 acres in Dunlap, Iowa. This year, the Sullivans went bankrupt, and so did each of the 4 farms around them.
I feel like the American Indian, that we're just being pushed aside for corporations.
It really makes us angry sometimes, and it makes us bitter, and we cry. Sometimes we feel like we've been used.
They've worked their land for 40 years and raised 16 children on it. They know soon they have to be leaving. It's a loss they can't measure in dollars.
It's not only what we do for work, but it's the way we live, right close to nature, and it's precious to us.
I don't think that a lot of people can comprehend at all what's happening. In time, this is going to affect everyone.
The Sullivans aren't going to the concert in the hopes of any last-minute donations. That last minute passed some time ago.
I just don't think that probably we will ever own a farm again. Whatever happens isn't going to help us a whole lot. But we want to see something happen in the system that will help the next generation and the next generation.
Mary Nissenson, NBC News, en route to the Farm Aid concert.
Which cereal has more vitamin nutrition than any other? Kellogg's Product 19 cereal. But you'd never guess.
Oh.
Because Product 19 vitamins are flaky, bumpy, crispy, crunchy, and taste so good. Product 19 goodness comes from corn, oats, wheat, and rice.
Delicious.
Kellogg's Product 19.
Flaky.
Bumpy.
Crispy. Crunchy.
Tasty vitamins.
This script of Shakespeare's is only printed words. No costumes, no scenery, no special effects. So how can literature ever compete with television? Tonight, my students will see.
When shall we 3 meet again? In thunder, lightning, or in rain? When the hurly-burly's done, when the battle's lost and
John Ingle. Isn't he the kind of teacher you want teaching your kids? So does the NEA.
Sunday on Meet the Press, we'll look in on Willie Nelson's Farm Aid concert and then explore the farm crisis with Agriculture Secretary Block and Senators Grassley of Iowa and Pryor of Arkansas.
For years, America's been staying up late with Larry King. Now, pro football may have a few sleepless nights because Larry King is on NFL 85 Sundays.
Sunday, the NFL plays here when the Chiefs battle the Dolphins. Before your team takes the field, our team hits the air. NFL 85.
You expect a hemorrhoid medicine to relieve pain and itch, but you get an extra therapeutic action with Preparation H. It helps speed relief to inflamed hemorrhoidal tissue with oxygen action. A special medicine in Preparation H accelerates the absorption of pure oxygen to help shrink swelling of inflamed hemorrhoidal tissue fast. And of course, Preparation H often relieves pain and itch for hours. When you choose a hemorrhoid medicine, remember, oxygen action is special with Preparation H.
As we mentioned earlier, President Reagan is trying to fight off protectionist trade legislation in Congress. He's proposing a $300 million fund to help U.S. firms sell products overseas. NBC News chief economics correspondent Irving R. Levine has more.
Workers at Prime Computer, like millions of other Americans, their jobs depend on selling their products overseas.
We could lose half of our revenue in a very short period of time if everyone went protectionist. We do almost half of our businesses overseas.
The fear is that foreign countries would retaliate against U.S. products, including computers, if protectionist legislation shuts the door to some foreign goods. Americans who make a living in the distribution, sale, and service of foreign-made cars, 163,000 Americans in all, would be hurt if restrictions were placed on imports.
They cut back another 25%. We'd have to, just numbers would show that we'd have to eliminate, in our dealership here, around 25, 30 people.
In retail stores, workers like John Little and Brian Barnhill sell goods from all over the world. This chain has 275 stores.
With the warehouse, the home office, and all the stores, I expect there's about 3,000 employees nationwide.
President Reagan believes protectionist legislation would cost more jobs than it saves.
That's the lesson of the Smoot-Hawley tariff in 1930, which helped to trigger a worldwide trade war that spread, deepened, and prolonged the worst depression in history.
Senator Reed Smoot and Congressman Willis Hawley, their tariffs, highest in history, resulted in countries competing to keep out each other's goods, with a loss of jobs everywhere. But it is the situation in places like Shreveport, Louisiana, not Smoot-Hawley, that rivets the attention of Congress in its push for protectionism. 1,800 workers laid off by AT&T, the manufacturer of phones transferred to lower-wage workers in Singapore. Monroe, Georgia, population 9,000, a textile town, laid low by imports.
Since they've closed the plant down, I'm outside cutting grass and cleaning toilets for a living now. Pretty hard.
The Walton Monroe Mill, after 90 years of operation, is in the process of closing, typical of the plight of the U.S. textile industry.
Foreign cloth come in on us and got us in trouble, shut us down.
Imports now account for 50% of all textiles and clothing sold in the U.S.
As I understand the wage rates in China, they're approximately 16 cents an hour. Well, our average wages are considerably higher than minimum wage here.
The first of a batch of protectionist legislation moving quickly through Congress would cut textile imports by as much as 40%. In a speech Monday, President Reagan will propose help for American companies to sell more overseas. He will talk tough to countries that obstruct sales of U.S. goods, and there's the threat of a veto. But none of this is likely to stop Congress from passing the textile bill and other protectionist legislation. Irving R. Levine, NBC News at the White House.
And that's our news. We'll have more on farm aid and the farm crisis tomorrow on Meet the Press. And John Palmer will be here tomorrow night. I'm Connie Chung in New York. I'll see you again next Saturday night. Thank you for joining us. Good night.
Promising you that some funny women are coming to your house tonight. Just check out the Golden Girls, pushing last to the limit. And then on 227, I get to go digging. Okay, child, give me the dirt. Just taking care of business, child. So take a tip from Marla. You are going to have some fun tonight.
Up next on the scene at 6, the State Department sends a military aircraft to Nashville to pick up specially trained dogs to be used in the search effort in Mexico for earthquake victims. And Governor Alexander leaves the state for a month-long trip, a move criticized by Democratic leaders. And later we'll see how a Southern California community is pitching in to help the victims of Mexico's 2 earthquakes.
These stories and more news coming up next on the scene at 6. Truck buyers.